that feeling. Want to take the journey with me. We'll turn this floor up into the ceiling. Oh, don't let it go to waste. Can you feel it in your face? I don't need to know you. Yeah, come through with your best self. No, I'm no doctor, but I got this product. I know it's good for your health. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. No, I got to have you. No, I can't help myself.
I can't help myself. No. Welcome to the Help Myself podcast. Listen, I'm your host, Jon M. Singletary Sr. And you know around here, we've got to put that senior in there because I've got my junior, a.k.a. LJ, my co-pilot, not only in this amazing podcasting game, but in this incredible adventure that we call life. And you know, today here in Southern Virginia, it was first day of school. So kind of excited. I didn't take any pictures. You know, we in year 3 of his postgraduate program, you know, having a good time. I didn't take any pictures. But we just got back from South Carolina last week, taking time to be with family, put flowers on Martika's grave. You know, we had a good time. We were safe and everything, you know what I'm saying? So all that good stuff. So everything is in. So it's good to be back in the saddle with the Help Myself podcast, to be back home in familiar backgrounds. And today, you know, I'm going to tell the story that I always tell. And that story is, and I'm using my old school words. When I was growing up as a kid, 70s and 80s babies, we couldn't say lie. So we say you was telling stories. And so the story I'm always telling is that it is not my plan to be here long. And I really think that I think I should just get over that because I have some important things to share today. I want to talk to you. I kind of touched on it last week. And so I just kind of want to expand on some things that we can do and some things that we must do to remain sane during these crazy political times that we find ourselves in, and also for us to fight so many things. Obviously, to fight fascism, to fight, you know, the destruction of the democratic process as we know it. And we understand that it has been weakened by many, many things over the years, over the decades. And we do understand that there were some things that were built in to keep it from being truly inclusive, and there's been a lot of fight, and to believe that we were to a point where we didn't have to fight anymore, obviously has been very hurtful for so many marginalized groups. My specific marginalized group is Black, African American, but so many marginalized groups. We see gay marriages up on the docket. They're going after that. We're seeing how birthright citizenship and immigration and all of these things. And I think we've got to really challenge ourselves, especially here at the Help Myself podcast, because, you know, I don't ever want to just be somebody that just talks about it. I want to challenge us when we talk about our lives, when we talk about what's important to us. I want to challenge us to take ownership of it. It's important for us to be in the midst of the struggle and do what the things that we know that we need to do. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter what we do, but it always matters. And we always are making a difference. So I want to talk about something heavy, but it's necessary. How do we sustain ourselves and our communities in the face of rising authoritarianism and the very real threat of fascism? Listen, I'm not saying these words lightly. We are obviously, to some, and to others, not so obviously, living in a moment where political power is being weaponized, marginalized voices, we are under attack, and the truth itself often feels like it's on trial. So, what do? I would say the first thing is not to give in to fear. We'll never surrender our humanity. So instead, we take action. And the best place to take action is right where we are and use what we have. So today, I want to quickly focus on three things, and I talked about them last week, and I just want to expand the three things. And this is not at all an exhaustive list, very small list. And granted, you're going to see creators, you're going to see people coming in and telling you how dire the situation is and how dire it can possibly be. And this is absolutely true. And it only gets more dire if we don't stay in the fight. And so the three things, and I discussed them last week, and I want to focus on is getting and staying educated, creating community, and practicing joy. So, to start off, getting and staying educated, one of the things that I've done is, now I make a regular, every couple of weeks, at least once a month trip to Mahogany Bookstore. And, I buy books and, I pick up there, and some of them are fun. There's some fun stuff because, I'll get in that later, having joy, but be very aware of information. We're watching history be rewritten. On PBS, there was a segment where they had a cartoon of Christopher Columbus talking about slavery wasn't that bad and ridiculousness. And there are people out here that believe these things and want to tell us what to get over and then see that we're under attack. And so I'm not even concerned with how people who don't believe in my rights, in the things that I believe, don't want to sit down and have a conversation and to check in with my humanity. I'm not inclined to care what those people think of me. This is for us who need to stay grounded in this fight. So we have to stay educated. We have to get educated. We have to stay educated. So first line in defense of any type of fascism is the truth. It's really simple. It is that simple. The truth is always the first line of defense because that's why they're under attack. That's why, books are getting banned. They want to change curriculums. They don't want to teach this. They don't want to teach that. When you think about the truth, think about all the people that were wigging out about CRT, being taught in their schools. And the fact was they didn't have any desire. They said, oh my God, your critical race theory makes white people feel bad, so we don't want it. They weren't. For one, it wasn't taught in any school. Look, I had people that I know personally that swore up and down that it was being taught in schools. It is a graduate level law curriculum. It's not being taught. It talks about how race impacts the justice system and the law system. And it is, law. It's a law degree. You're going for a law degree. And this isn't just first year in class, and it's not required. It is a specific track. But people believed a lie because of their emotions, because of the fear of, hey, this world, this country, this society that I believe is so good because it's beneficial to me may not be as good as I believe it is. And that scares people. So first line of defense against fascism is always truth. But understand the truth isn't just handed to us. And that's why I talk about taking the trips to the bookstore, sitting down with educated people. I have the privilege of following some supremely educated women that don't care how we feel about it. They've been educated in this and they speak their truth. And sometimes it's difficult to understand. A lot of stuff is really interesting. But sometimes it's difficult to sit with truths that you've grown up and you've associated yourself differently with. But even though it might be difficult, it's important. It needs to be done. So we got to read more. We got to dig into history. We've got to learn from certified and trusted sources. Misinformation, we know it spreads like wildfire. Listen, these authoritarian folks, They thrive when we stop questioning what is being told to us. So we have to ask the question, what am I learning? Who am I listening to? Where is this information coming from? It's important to read books. Listen, I know a lot of times information comes in other sources quicker, but I still think it's important for us to read books, and they've made it so easy for us to be able to do that. You can read a book on your phone or on your tablet. They've got audio books, whichever is the best way. Reading books to give historical context. Seek out journalists who are committed to facts. Learn from scholars and leaders who study how authoritarian systems rise, how we as a community can resist. We are in a time where education is no longer a luxury. Education is very important and is vital to our survival. So we've got to get educated and we've got to stay educated. So I want to encourage you to do that. But not only that, we've got to create community to sustain us. And this is a bell I've been ringing for a while. A lot of times when we're in isolation, isolation does several things. One of the things isolation does is isolation makes tumultuous times like this feel even more stressful, hopeless, and destructive in our own personal lives. But isolation also puts us in situations where we don't have access to information that can encourage us, that can change our mind, that can mobilize us to do different things. And so a lot of times when we are in community, and I spoke about it last week, community used to be a thing where if we're in community, the community wasn't good if there was a member in the community that wasn't good. And now, we're off on our own and, hey, you just figure it out. But it's not just, hey, you just figure it out. A lot of us are taking it on ourselves. Hey, I'm going to figure this out. And we are playing into the hands of fascism, authoritarianism. We're playing right into the hands because the more isolated we are, the more that we think that we can do it alone and go alone, we far outnumber them. And the reason why we're often not able to make an impact is because they keep us distracted. I am not anti being online. I'm not anti social media, but let me tell you something. We are distracted. The classics still work. Reading still works. Conversation still works. Mobilizing still works. Meditating, prayer, gathering, it still works, and oftentimes we are getting distracted by online, and it's distracting us from creating real community. Now, obviously, online is a way for us to create community that is important, but I want to talk about the real nuts and bolts of community. The community when you or someone in your family is sick and you need help, that community needs to be in physical vicinity of you. And this is the community I'm saying that we need to focus on. I'm not saying that one community is better than the other, but I'm saying, how are your neighbors doing? Or do we know who our neighbors are? Do we, if need be, do we have a situation where we can go to somebody else's house and we would all be safe or have resources that we need, And building and sustaining community is an active revolution. Community isn't just nice to have, it's a lifeline. So, it could mean starting a study group, Bible study, prayer group, joining a local mutual aid network, or simply just strengthening the ties with your neighbors and friends. Community gives us courage. And not only does it give us courage, it gives us accountability. And that courage and that accountability creates resources, because the simple fact is none of us can do this work alone. But not only can we not do this work alone, we never should have felt like this was something that we had to do alone. Life is a team sport, and we should always be considerate of the fact that we have to do this with a sense of community. And so when we become really intentional about connecting, about checking in, about supporting one another, that is when we're able to create a culture that can't be easily divided or destroyed. Creating support networks, we create thought networks and strategy networks and all of the things that'll be important for us to make sure that we're staying mobilized, to make sure that we're staying strengthened, to make sure that we're staying taken care of, even in difficult times. And even if we talk about, okay, politically, we are going to rebound and things are going to get better from a political standpoint, we already see the price of things going up. We already see the struggle, the homelessness numbers going up, the unemployment numbers going up. And so community is a really vital thing for us to have in such a time as this. But not only do we need to get and stay educated, not only do we need to practice community, but we also need to practice joy. I cannot say this enough. We've got to practice joy. You know what really makes insecure people with authoritarian dreams upset is that when we are living in our joy and loving each other and owning our space and smiling and laughing and still being able to find a way to live this life with joy and valuing the things that we have. And joy, it doesn't mean that we ignore the pain or we're pretending that everything is fine. What it does mean, though, is that we're choosing to celebrate our lives, even in the middle of storms. And it could be music, dance, laughter, creating art, spending time with loved ones, or simply breathing in gratitude for another day. But we have got to practice joy, and we have to practice joy not only daily, but multiple times a day, because it fuels resilience. Our joy reminds us of why we fight. Our joy reminds us of who we are. Our joy reminds us of how important and how loved we are. And it creates a vision of the world that we're striving towards. One where we're all free, one where we're all whole, and one where everybody is seen, loved, cared for, and they're able to be their truest and most authentic self. So, you know, we got to make sure that we're getting educated, that we're staying educated. I think I want to start coming on here and talking about books that we can pick up, you know, and things that we can do. So we're going to have to make sure that we're getting and staying educated. We're going to have to make sure that we're creating sustainable and real community because we need each other. I'm tempted to say more than ever, but we've always needed each other. There's never been a time that we didn't. Whenever we believed that we didn't, we were really just fooling ourselves. And then absolutely, we've got to practice joy. We've got to find our joy. We've got to find the things that make us smile, the things that make us happy. Like, you know, my friends were sending me pictures of their kids' first day at school. It brought me joy because we need that. We need community. We need love. We need value. We need all of these things. So here's the takeaway. Listen, let's call it what it is. It's a fascist regime. And how do we fight back? Not just with protest and politics. Those are important, but they're not the only thing that we can do. We can also fight back with community, with education, and with joy. We can fight back by staying informed, by staying together, and most of all, staying human. Listen, don't let this darkness steal your light. Don't let this noise silence your voice. And don't let fear rob you of your joy. I really appreciate the opportunity to take this time and to share with you. And, you know, I think it's about time for me to close out like I always do. Listen, I want you to stay encouraged, to be encouraged, and to encourage others. So let's get educated. Let's create valuable community. Most importantly, let's practice our joy. Don't let anything rob you of your joy and of your humanity because you deserve it and it's vital. And so I'll close like I always do. Listen, I can't help myself. I've got to inspire, I've got to encourage, I've got to empower. But I can't help myself by being the absolute best version of myself. And guess what? You can too. So why not we do it together?